Endeavour ISS, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
We are ready for the event.
Associated Press, this is Houston. Please call Endeavour ISS for a voice check.
Endeavour Station, this is the Associated Press. How do you hear me?
Got you loud and clear. Hello, Marcia.
Good morning, Colonel Wirtz, Captain Hire. Talking to you this morning from the launching site. Both of you, tell me about your new room, Tranquility. What's the first impressions when you first floated inside?
We're able to go inside Node 3 Tranquility for the first time today, and Kay and I got the chance to go inside of the cupola, and it's just a great place. Kay and I got the chance to go inside of the cupola, and just a really nice module. I'll let Kay add her thoughts.
Yeah, it's so great to see it up here in space. Of course, we saw it when it was still at the Kennedy Space Center before it launched. It looks a lot different here, especially now that we can float all over and use the entire volume instead of just in 1G. You're pretty much restricted to just a floor being a floor. But I will tell you, we're filling it up very quickly. We're loading all kinds of equipment in there and starting to bring it to life. So it's going to look very different in just a short number of hours.
Does it have that new room or new car smell and feel to it? And at least at first, was it stuffy, hot, cold, comfortable in there? Just a little bit of description of the ambiance.
It definitely has the new spaceship smell. It had when we first opened it up, it had the same temperature as the station, and then probably for the first couple hours that we were in there, it started to get warm as we were all doing a lot of physical work in there, and we didn't have all the ventilation hooked up yet, and now it's starting to feel more like the rest of the station. But it had a unique smell, almost a space smell to it.
Are you still limited to 4 people in there at a time? I know at first it seemed like there was some sluggish airflow going on. Has that been resolved, and do you still have to wear goggles and masks?
Well, that's correct. When we first went in, because there was no power or ventilation set up inside Node 3, it was dark and a bit stuffy. So we had to be careful and sample the environment, make sure it was safe, make sure there was no particles floating around that might get into our eyes or cause problems. So we did have goggles and dust masks as we went in. Did have goggles and dust masks as we and the dust mask, but we are still limited on the number of folks that we can have in there working at one time until we can get the ventilation full up and working, and that's on our schedule of things to do, and we'll get that all resolved soon and get it up and operating.
Well, for each of you, you're both visiting the space station for the first time. What's been the biggest surprise for each of you?
Well, there's several differences between the shuttle and the station. The first one you notice is just how big it is. One of the things that you can do is start at one end and push off and try and float, as far as you can. And as a rookie, especially as the first-time visitor to the station, we're not very good, and we tend to float up or hit the walls. But if you watch the station crew, these guys are real pros, and they can push off and go for 50 or 100 feet without touching anything. So that requires some adaptation with your body to learn how to fly and float in space. So that's been a lot of fun.
Kay, what are your thoughts?
We've seen so many beautiful pictures of the International Space Station. Every crew sends down just phenomenal images, but to see it for real, especially as we approached our rendezvous, it just beyond description. It's just so sharp, very high def. It's kind of like the difference between seeing a very old analog type of a picture and the first time you ever see really super high definition. And here it is. It's just such a large station, and there's just so many capabilities on board. I think that was the biggest surprise, was just how phenomenal it looked as we approached.
Well, that leads me into my next question. With the shuttle era winding down, the space station is going to be its legacy. And now that you've actually been there, are there, do you have a different perspective on all of this as being part of history?
You know, Marcia, when we attached Node 3 and Cupola, the thing that reminds me of is finishing the Transcontinental Railroad. That was a huge project that America really got behind. It was an international project. We had workers from around the world. And when it was done, it opened up the West to let our country become the nation that we are today. And in some ways, putting Node 3 and Tranquility on and Cupola are the end of one phase of the space station, but it really, I think it's the beginning of a future of space exploration that a long time from now we'll look back on and see in a similar vein.
Well, I'm just wondering, is my last question, will the astronauts, will the two crews be doing anything special for Valentine's Day tomorrow, maybe sharing a special meal or anything else?
Thanks for reminding me.
That's pretty funny because I was saying earlier today that I didn't even really remember what day of the week it was or what day of the month, because everything up here is all about either Greenwich Mean Time or mission elapsed time. So that's how our days are built, and we have to actually remind ourselves every now and then of what day it is. So yes, thanks for the reminder.
Well, happy Valentine's Day too.
It's easy for me to remember. Thanks. It's easy for me to remember Valentine's Day because my wife's birthday is tomorrow. So I have a birthday and a Valentine's Day, and it's hard for me to forget both of those.
Well, that's great. Well, I'm told I need to wind up, so good luck to all of you, and Godspeed on your journeys home.
Endeavour ISS, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the Associated Press portion of the event. Please stand by for a voice check from CBS News.
Endeavour ISS, this is CBS News. How do you hear me?
Loud and clear. Hello, Bill.
Hey, hi, Terry. Hi, Kay. It's great to see you guys up there. Obviously, I'm going to start with Node 3 today. They tell us that when the shuttle departs, the station is going to be 98% complete. How do you guys characterize that accomplishment? You know, I remember a few years ago the space station processing facility was just packed with equipment, and now it's empty pretty much. What do you think about that?
Like I said, I made the analogy with the Transcontinental Railroad, and I think it's an accomplishment that all Americans should be really proud of from what we've done up here, and really all of our international partners, Japan, Europe, Russia. There's been many countries involved in building the space station, and I think it's something that a lot of folks should be really proud of and excited about.
You know, seeing that module come out of the shuttle's cargo bay reminded a lot of folks about how much capability is going to be lost when the shuttle stops flying. And, you know, given the administration's new budget, which obviously happened right before you guys took off, and the shift in emphasis, do either of you have any concerns about NASA's ability to keep the station flying through 2020?
Well, you know, first of all, I'd like to say that I'm just so honored to be part of this fantastic team. And it is just unbelievable what this team, this international team, has done together, that we have put all these different high technical pieces and parts all together and brought them up to space and put them together up here. We see many times things that are built in vastly different locations by several different companies and contractors and governments, brought to space for the first time without ever being fit checked together, brought together here and put together, and it works great. And this team just does a fantastic job, and I'm sure they'll continue. And sorry about that handrail that just floated right in front of the camera. It was a little distracting for us, but we got it now. That is something that happens up here every now and then. There is a lot of equipment. We are working with a lot of things, and sometimes they just kind of escape from you and they start, and sometimes through here with fans, and that just causes things to move around.
Gravity happens, I guess, or maybe it doesn't happen. Looking ahead, though, guys, there's a fair amount of angst, I guess, among the NASA troops about the budget, the new direction for NASA. What do you guys have to say to everybody about where you think things are going?
Well, I know it's a tough time, and there's a lot of uncertainty out there, but from my personal point of view, I've been focused on what's happening this afternoon and this evening, and I really haven't had time to think about what's going on too much in the future. But I know that we have a very busy year of space shuttle flights, and flying the space shuttle is a very difficult thing to do. It's a very complex machine, maybe the most complex machine that we've ever built, and it's just really important right now for us to focus on flying the shuttle safely. It's a really hard thing to get into orbit, and a hard thing to come back from orbit, and a hard thing to operate here in orbit like we're doing. Like you mentioned, the shuttle has so much capability and it does so much. So I think in the near term, we just need to keep our focus on that.
Space ground 2 for the ARS rock.
Well, let me ask you just one more along those lines, Terry. Obviously this shift to commercial vehicles is something that is a big change. Just because it's so hard to get into space, are you confident that private industry can do what needs to be done, both unmanned and manned, to support the station?
I'm going to pass that one over to Kay.
Sorry about that, Bill. We had a little interference here with another communication going on. Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Do you need me to repeat the question? I'm sorry. Yeah, I was just wondering, just because it is so difficult to get into space, the sheer challenge of all of this, how confident you guys are that private industry can step up both with unmanned cargo craft and the manned craft you'll eventually need to continue supporting space station.
Well, again, this is a phenomenal team, and NASA has been around for more than 50 years, and we faced a lot of challenges in the past. I remember when we ended the Apollo program, and it took a while for us to get the shuttle program launched, but people were working on it. So I think that this is really going to lead to better things, just as we stepped up from Apollo to shuttle and the International Space Station. This is just a phase that we must go through sometimes. It would have been nice to have it maybe a little smoother, but this is something that we will meet this challenge. NASA and its entire international team will make sure that we fly safely, and we're going to come up with something great. I'm sure that the next program is going to be wonderful.
Well, thanks a lot, guys. They tell me I got to wrap, so have a safe flight, and we'll look forward to seeing you back on the ground in Florida.
Thanks a lot. We'll see you.
Endeavour ISS, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the CBS News portion of the event. Please stand by for a voice check from Reuters.
Endeavour ISS, this is Reuters. How do you read me?
Read you loud and clear. How do you read us?
Very good. Thank you, Colonel Wirtz, Captain Hire. It's Chris Baltimore with Reuters in Houston. It's been a while since both of you have been on orbit. How has the experience been different for you both this time around?
Well, this is my first time, and it's been amazing. It's different than what I thought it would be, a lot better, and it really, when you hear indescribable, that's really true, because you just can't put words to it. The Earth looks different than what I thought it would look. It has more colors to it and more tones, and it was just surprising. I've been looking at pictures of the Earth for my whole life, and it was really surprising to see it, especially the first few days in orbit. There was a thin moon out, and I just saw some amazing things. The east coast of the U.S. at night, flew over Israel and Jerusalem one night with the moon setting right above it, and so those images are going to stick with me forever. The other thing that's different, and I knew it would happen, but it's a lot of fun to get used to, is just floating and learning to not. There's a natural reaction that your body wants to push and touch and grab things, and whenever you do that, you end up doing that and floating up just with a really small push. So you really have to learn. It's like learning how to walk again, only you have to learn in a few hours or a few days instead of years.
Thank you. A question for Captain Heyer. The shuttle program is nearing its retirement with 4 remaining missions after this one. For you and your team members, is this a feeling more bitter or more sweet?
Well, I'll tell you, I think it's going to hit me a little bit more after we land. We have been so focused on STS-130 and this flight and the tasks that we have to accomplish on this flight that we haven't really had a lot of time to reflect about it. But I'm sure that when I get back and the reality of only 4 more flights sets in, it's going to feel a little strange. But it's also an exciting time because it means that we're moving on to something else. So I'm pretty excited to see what's going to come next.
Thank you. A question for Colonel Wirtz. After the shuttle is retired, current plans call for U.S. astronauts to reach the space station via privately run space taxis. Is this a viable plan to you, and do you think that private industry can uphold the same standards of quality and safety that NASA has?
You know, my focus for last year has been on training for this flight, so I'm not familiar at all with what plans the commercial companies may have for building it. I was aware of Orion, and I worked on that some, but I'm sure that NASA is going to hold them to a very high standard, that it'll be safe, it'll work to the best of our abilities to make it work. So I'm confident that NASA will make sure that there's high safety standards, but I haven't had a chance to, I'm not familiar with what types of designs or plans that they have right now.
Thank you, and maybe a question for both of you. The current NASA budget does away with the Constellation program to put an American vehicle on the moon. What's your take on this priority shift going forward?
Well, I have to echo what Terry Wirtz just told you, and that's that we have been so focused on STS-130 that personally, for me, and I'm sure for the rest of our crew, that we really haven't even been reading the news or looking at the details of all of that. I know there's a lot of discussion going on about that right now, but I'm really just not up to speed on that. But we can sure talk about this mission, STS-130, and what we're going to accomplish while we're here at the International Space Station.
You bet. Maybe you could give me a few impressions about the new Tranquility node and what it's looking like and how it's shaping up.
Terry grappled the node. Its position, final position that it's in now. It is docked to the port side or the left side of the International Space Station. We were able to open the hatch and go in today. And starting off, it was dark and just a little bit stuffy, if you will, because there was no air circulation going on, and we're in the process of setting all that up. So as we are going in there now and bringing new equipment inside, we are wearing little headlamps and carrying flashlights and little portable fans until we get everything all up and running. But that's going to be soon, and it's just going to be a fantastic module for the folks on the International Space Station.
Very good. I know that your crew is working some issues with getting the proper equipment for sealing the cupola onto the Tranquility node. Do you envision that creating any problems for completing that part of the installation?
Yes, we just noticed there's a cover that we were going to put on the outside hatch of Node 3, and we cover that hatch up as we move the cupola off of it, and then we're going to move another module called PMA3 onto that location. And the ground is deciding right now how they want to proceed. In fact, that just happened, as you know, a few hours ago. While Kay and I were installing it, we found out that it didn't fit. And while Kay and I were installing it, I think that the plan, I think there's a few options, but I'm not sure how we're going to proceed. But there's no immediate. Both modules are in great shape, and so it's just a matter of deciding how we're going to proceed at this point.
Well, Colonel Wirtz, Captain Heyer, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks a lot, and I hope you're having a great time back there on Earth. Thanks a lot, and
Endeavour ISS, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
And thank you, Associated Press, CBS News, and Reuters. Endeavour ISS, we're now resuming operational audio communications.